Hello, this is my first post to this subreddit, so bear with me as I try to figure it out. I first posted to a different subreddit, but it was a judgmental one, and I didn't get the advice I needed there. I am looking for more advice at this point, so please help me if you can. You are welcome to look through my history as the entire story is there, but you don't have to, as I have covered it mostly here. Info on mother 51F. My mother has stage 4 chronic obstructive pulmonary disease and other health issues. She is still able to bathe herself, walk medium distances, bedroom to car in one go with no stops, use the bathroom, and can but usually doesn't fetch herself drinks. She is also able to order food from the apps and get it from the door when delivered, but usually has me do that. She does need help when visiting doctors. She refuses hospitals unless someone goes with her, even when she needs to go. She is traumatized by her health and frequently panics over even a hiccup. She uses me as her emotional support and tells everyone, including doctors, that I am pretty much her at-home therapist and brags that I should go to school for it. She refuses to see a licensed therapist. I am on call 24/7 to her. She literally calls me and wakes me up day or night and I go to her. Info on X70 plus M. I, in the original post, refused to take the X in due to all the other stuff I had to manage between her care, mine, and my children. However, after the pregnancy ended very crazily, and then the death of my infant 2 months later, I ended up allowing him shelter on a temporary basis. This did not go as planned, and he has been a permanent resident since. He sleeps on the couch, and he is able to walk, slowly. He is able to heat food up, make coffee, and even cook a little without much help. But he is still in need of help and care. Our shower is not handicap accessible in the way he needs, so he unfortunately takes rag baths. He never stinks though and shaves and cares for his own hygiene. Info on me 27. Ew. F. I am married. Husband 28. Works as a truck driver currently. He is out for a week and home most weekends now, though it used to be. Gone about a month, give or take, to home. 4 days. I had a difficult pregnancy at the end of last year that nearly ended the life of me. She was born in November and died in January due to sudden infant death syndrome. There is more on it in my updates to the other post. I stay at home and care for our 9 and 4-year-old daughters, as well as my mother and now her ex. After the baby died, my husband stayed home a few weeks. Originally, we planned that when he left to go back out again, I would send our kids to his aunt's, and I would spend a week or 2 on the road with him. The reason was so I could grieve without anyone to interrupt or need me in any way. He would take care of himself, and I would do what I needed to get back in a good headspace to be able to be there for our kids and my mother. This did not happen because my mother ended up in the hospital and needed me to help her. So I put it off and have been doing so since. Every time I go to plan it, she ends up super sick and in the hospital, or just so sick that she can't be left alone to fetch her drinks or food herself. The ex could help her, I know. But if she's that sick, what if she needs to be in the hospital? With this last time, she had to have emergency surgery on her gallbladder and then a stent put in her bile duct 2 weeks later when she was still sick and went back to the hospital. She's staying in pain, but they keep sending her home, saying to wait the 8 weeks until they remove the stent and giving her stronger and stronger pain meds every time. Now it's the end of school, and I had planned to send the girls to my husband's aunt for the 2 weeks. I told my mother and suggested letting her friend, who recently lost their apartment, stay temporarily while they look for a new place. She said no because X and her friend don't get along, and also told me that I shouldn't be trying to leave her while she's sick like this. I pointed out that she has only made it through 2 of the 8 weeks, and the kids won't be out of school for too long in adult time. I said there is nothing more I can do for her at this point. The medical professionals have to handle it, and as of now, they say, wait for 8 weeks. Non-invasive surgeries. Down the throat for stent, and also 4 tiny incisions on the stomach that are already pretty healed as the gallbladder happened 2 weeks prior to the stent, so 4 weeks ago now. She says if I leave her knowing that she needs me emotionally right now because she has panicked, I would be an AH and selfish. I understand she needs support. She is fully capable of taking care of her basics, ordering food/drinks/shower/bathroom, etc. Though, Also, her friend has already said they would help even if they didn't stay in the home temporarily. I'm just asking for a week or two to just exist and maybe actually grieve my baby dying rather than shove it away and focus on everything and everyone else. I need this and can feel it like an ache in my body. I don't know what to do. I feel like my other option is just waiting for her to die, which is awful. And though I know it will happen sometime soonish in the future, I don't want that. Maybe a year, maybe 2, if lucky. I also don't want to have to wait and then end up grieving both my baby and mother at the same time. That will destroy me. Any advice? I am at a loss now. What can I do to convince her to let me do this for myself, so I can come back and do better with everyone's care? Please keep in mind that I might just not be thinking clearly with all this stress and devastation. Yes, I am in therapy. The therapist agreed a week or 2 away would help me, but didn't have much advice on my mother, other than to make sure she had help. Almost forgot. I tried to do an update post, but I can't figure it out on here. So instead, here's a link to an update on my profile for anyone still wondering. Update post. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. You have this all wrong. You can go on your trip at any time. You do not need your mother's approval to go on a trip. Your mom is 50 years old. She has COPD. She should be doing as much as she can to manage her own care. She can either be a child where you make decisions for her. I am going on a trip for 2 weeks, and X will be here to take care of you. Or she can choose to be an adult, and you can work together. I'm going on a trip for 2 weeks. Do you need me to do anything before I go? That may sound cruel, but you are neglecting your own health while allowing another person, who is adding to your stress, to run your life. Break the cycle. Choose yourself. Grieve the way you need to, make the changes you need to, and enhance your sense of happiness and fulfillment. It is not selfish to take care of yourself. You can't pour from an empty cup and you don't have a lot left. Do what's best for you. Your mom will figure it out. And if she refuses to, then she needs more care than you can provide if she's truly that helpless. Comment 2. Sorry, but you need to get her boyfriend and her out of your house. She's 50, she's not 80. If she can't take care of herself, and she needs to get put into some state home or something. You need to tell her doctor that you can't take care of her anymore, and something needs to be figured out. Or if you can rent an apartment in her name, pay the first month's rent and tell her she's on her own because you can't do it anymore. It may be cold, but she has other friends that can help. They can pitch in, but she's never going to leave otherwise. I get she has COPD, and that's an awful disease, and it will unalive her. I don't know how long. It could be 10 days. It could be another 5 years or more. She's on disability. She should qualify for a lot of programs. So if she won't do the footwork, get her signed up, and hopefully, you can get her in some kind of government-assisted apartment. And she can probably qualify for Medicaid and get home health care, coming to her paid by Medicaid. But you need to deal with your grief, yes. Now, for the update. Thank you for all the comments and support from my last post. So, a lot has happened in the past 3 months. I finally managed to get a week away with my husband on the road. It wasn't easy, and it came with a lot of guilt and stress, but I knew I needed it. My mother was not happy about it, but I arranged for her friend to stay with her, and I made sure everything was set up for her to be as comfortable as possible. I thought I had everything under control, but I made a mistake that changed everything. While I was away, my mother had another health scare. She ended up back in the hospital with severe pain, and they discovered that the stent in her bile duct had caused an infection. I felt terrible for not being there, and I rushed back home as soon as I could. My mother was furious with me for leaving her, and she made it clear that she blamed me for not being there when she needed me the most. This caused a huge rift between us, and I've been struggling to repair our relationship ever since. In the midst of all this, my husband and I had a serious talk about our future. He's been feeling the strain of being away from home so much, and he's worried about my mental health and the toll it's taking on our family. We decided that he would look for a local job so he could be home more often. It's been a tough transition, but we both agree that it's the best thing for our family right now. The kids have been affected by all the chaos as well. Our 9-year-old has been acting out at school, and our 4-year-old has been having nightmares. I've been trying to be there for them as much as I can. But it's been hard with everything else going on. I've been working with their teachers and a child therapist to help them cope with all the changes and stress. My mother's ex has also been a source of tension. He's been more demanding and difficult to deal with, and it's clear that he's not happy with the current living situation. He's been making passive-aggressive comments and trying to undermine my authority in the house. I've had to set some firm boundaries with him, which has only added to the stress. In the midst of all this, I've been trying to take care of myself and find some semblance of normalcy. I've been going to therapy regularly, and I've started a support group for people who have lost children. It's been helpful to talk to others who understand what I'm going through, and it's given me some much-needed perspective. One thing that has become clear to me is that I need to prioritize my own well-being. I've been so focused on taking care of everyone else that I've neglected my own needs. I've started setting aside time each day for self-care, whether it's going for a walk, reading a book, or just taking a few minutes to breathe and relax. It's not much, but it's a start. I've also been working on improving my relationship with my mother. It's been a slow and difficult process, but we've had some honest conversations about our feelings and what we need from each other. I've had to accept that I can't be everything for her, and she's had to accept that I need to take care of myself too. It's a delicate balance, but we're getting there. Looking back, I realized that I made a mistake by not being more honest with my mother about my needs and boundaries. I thought I was doing the right thing by putting her needs first, but it ended up causing more harm than good. I've learned that it's important to communicate openly and honestly, even when it's difficult. As for my husband, he's been incredibly supportive through all of this. We've had our ups and downs, but we're committed to making our marriage work. He's been helping out more around the house and with the kids, and we've been making an effort to spend quality time together as a family. It's not perfect, but we're making progress. There's still a lot of uncertainty and challenges ahead, but I'm trying to take things one day at a time. I've learned that it's okay to ask for help and to take care of myself. I've also learned that it's important to be honest with myself and with the people I love. It's not easy, but it's necessary. Thank you for reading and for all your support. Am I the idiot for considering divorce? Because my husband won't show me any affection. My husband and I have been married for a little over a year, and while he was never good at giving me compliments, meaning he just never gives me any compliments, I got to know him that way and thought that's just how he is. He always said he's just not good at it, and I did talk to him many times that I would like at least some compliments every few weeks. He would say he will try, and nothing changed. But as I said, I met him this way, so I can't expect him to change. But for many months now, he has also just stopped touching me and kissing me. I always kiss him like a quick goodbye or hello kiss, or quickly throughout the day. But he gives me a goodbye kiss like once a week if I'm lucky, and that's it. You know how partners touch each other's back, hip, or even butt when walking by sometimes? Yeah, I do that, but he doesn't. Our intimacy life is fine, and we don't have intimacy often, but multiple times a month. But I always start it. When lying in bed or on the couch, I start touching him. Sometimes it leads to intimacy when I literally ask him sex, but if I don't ask for intimacy, he will eventually climax from the BJ or hand intimacy, and that's that. He doesn't start anything with me. He doesn't touch me in that way. He doesn't ask me for intimacy, just nothing. Our relationship is honestly pretty good otherwise. Of course, we have disagreements sometimes, but that's normal. We used to have good communication, and we tell each other if something's bothering us. And I've told him many times that this is bothering me and making me feel so unwanted and unattractive that it has seriously harmed my feeling of self-worth and how comfortable I feel in my own body. Every time he gives me an excuse of too much stress in our life, fine for a few weeks. But it's been this way for at least 6 months, or that he didn't notice and will try to change it. Then he touches me a bit more for a few days. And then it's back to normal within 2 or 3 days. The only thing he does is ask to cuddle sometimes. He will lay on my chest and watch TV, but that's literally it. We used to make out, have foreplay before intimacy, kiss just because throughout the day. He would touch my back when walking by, or my butt when I walked up the steps in front of him. Just those little things. But he does none of it anymore. I have talked to him about it so many times and explained in detail how it made me feel, and what I would like him to change. I don't know what else to do anymore. But getting a divorce over this seems stupid, but I feel so unwanted and disgusting. I feel like there's something wrong with my looks or smell, or I don't even know. I feel so incredibly self-conscious. I have started to go on a diet because maybe that will help. I started to brush my hair every few hours, brush my teeth multiple times throughout the day. I am starting to go insane, trying to find the reason. I also don't want to force him to touch me or tell me that I'm beautiful. If he does touch me, for a day or two after I tell him how unhappy it makes me, I can't even enjoy it because it just seems forced. What can I do? I want a marriage where I feel wanted, but at the same time, everything else is good. So getting a divorce over this seems childish. Now for an update. So I talked to him about it, and he basically got upset and told me that I'm always criticizing him and that it's not as bad as I make it seem. He then said if I'm so unhappy, I need to decide if I want to divorce. But he won't change anything because it's my problem and not his. Then he walked away. I do not always criticize him. It's honestly just this topic that I bring up every few weeks, and that's it. Sometimes I tell him I don't like how he reacts if I make a mistake, for example. If I don't clean the carpet that I wanted to clean because I didn't find the time yet. And he reacts by taking jabs at me multiple times until I do it and makes me feel like shoot about it. I don't think bringing up those two topics every few weeks is always critiquing. Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Could be a lot of things going on. Inertia, depression, lack of attraction, etc. There isn't a single reason for someone losing interest. But no, it's not silly to divorce over this. You've talked to him about it and nothing has changed, so he seems okay with the status quo. You're not, and you deserve to feel wanted in your relationship. I'd suggest one more sit down with him and let him know you're thinking about divorce because this isn't working. Let him know he can't just improve for a day or a week or two and go back to this. He needs to open up about the problem and identify ways to fix it long term. If he can't or won't, you need to leave. Comment 2. My husband and I have gone through this a few times in the last year. We have regular meetings with a marriage therapist, so I highly recommend that. I will say that my husband works a lot and picked up a side hustle because we are struggling. So he is tired and just doesn't think to be flirty or whatever with me. I get it, but I have had to tell him, hey, yeah, you better act like you like me because I feel like crap. And he snaps back into it. We have been married for 11 years and I was married prior as well. Men are just oblivious blank slates. They need a little knock on the noggin every now and again. Now, for the update, thanks for reading my last post. After our last conversation, I decided to take a different approach. I stopped bringing up the topic of physical affection altogether, thinking maybe giving him space would help. I focused on myself, trying to improve my self-esteem without relying on his validation. I started going to the gym more regularly and even picked up a new hobby, painting. It was therapeutic and gave me something to look forward to. A few days into this new routine, I noticed he seemed more distant than ever. He was spending more time on his phone and less time engaging with me, even during meals. One night, I caught a glimpse of his phone screen and saw he was texting someone named Alex. I didn't want to jump to conclusions, but it made me uneasy. I decided to let it slide for the moment, hoping it was just a friend or colleague. The next day, I came home from work earlier than usual and found him on a video call with Alex. He quickly ended the call when he saw me, which only fueled my suspicions. I couldn't hold it in any longer and confronted him about it. He admitted that Alex was a woman he met online through a gaming community. He insisted they were just friends, but I couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to it. This revelation led to a huge argument. I accused him of emotionally cheating, and he accused me of being paranoid and controlling. It was the worst fight we've ever had. He stormed out of the house, and I was left alone, feeling more unwanted and unattractive than ever. The next few days were tense. He stayed at a friend's place, and we barely communicated. I was on the verge of packing my bags and leaving when he finally came home. He looked exhausted and defeated. He sat me down and told me he had been doing a lot of thinking. He admitted that he had been neglecting our relationship, and that his friendship with Alex had become a distraction from our problems. He confessed that he felt overwhelmed by the pressure to be more affectionate. and that it made him withdraw even more. He said he didn't realize how much his behavior was hurting me, and that he wanted to make things right. He suggested we go to couples therapy to work through our issues. I was hesitant at first, but I agreed. We found a therapist and started going to sessions twice a week. The first few sessions were tough. We had to confront a lot of uncomfortable truths about our relationship and ourselves. But slowly we started to make progress. The therapist helped us understand each other's perspectives and find healthier ways to communicate. One breakthrough moment came when the therapist asked him about his upbringing. He revealed that his parents were not very affectionate, and he never learned how to express love physically. This was a huge aha moment for me. It made sense why he struggled with giving compliments and showing affection. It wasn't that he didn't love me, he just didn't know how to show it. We started working on small, actionable steps to improve our relationship. He made an effort to give me compliments, even if they felt awkward at first. I focused on appreciating the little things he did for me, like making my favorite coffee in the morning or fixing things around the house. We also set aside time each week for a date night, where we could reconnect without distractions. One evening during one of our date nights, he surprised me with a heartfelt letter. In it, he apologized for his behavior and expressed his love for me in a way he never had before. He acknowledged my feelings and promised to keep working on our relationship. It was the most genuine and vulnerable I had ever seen him, and it brought tears to my eyes. As we continued therapy, we also started to explore our individual needs and desires. I realized that I had been seeking validation from him because I was insecure about my own self-worth. I started working on building my confidence and finding fulfillment outside of our relationship. He, on the other hand, began to understand the importance of emotional intimacy and started opening up more about his feelings. One day, while we were cuddling on the couch, he looked at me and said, "I know I've been distant, but I want you to know that I'm committed to making this work. I love you, and I'm willing to do whatever it takes." It was a turning point for us. We still had a long way to go, but for the first time in months, I felt hopeful about our future. We also decided to set some boundaries with Alex. He agreed to limit his interactions with her and focus on rebuilding our trust. It wasn't easy, but it was necessary for our relationship to heal. Over time, I started to feel more secure and less threatened by their friendship. As we continued to work on our relationship, we discovered new ways to connect and support each other. We started taking dance classes together, which was a fun and intimate way to spend time together. We also made an effort to be more present and attentive to each other's needs. Looking back, I realized that our struggles were a wake-up call. They forced us to confront our issues and grow as individuals and as a couple. We're not perfect, and we still have our moments of doubt and frustration. But we're committed to each other and to making our marriage work. Thank you for reading. Am I the idiot for leaving my military spouse after they turned our marriage into a one-sided nightmare? We live in California. We got married after knowing each other for a little over a year, and he's on active duty in the military. It's become obvious to me that we're not compatible, and marriage counseling is unlikely to help since our core beliefs are different. I didn't know he wanted a traditional marriage until after I moved out here. His idea was that I'd be responsible for all the cooking, cleaning, and household maintenance while he paid the bills. I had a full-time job that I stepped down from and took a large pay cut, because even when I would work full-time, he never did anything around the apartment besides take our dogs out. And he'd complain if I asked him to take the dogs out in the evening when it was dark out. He's 23, and I believe living with a toddler would be easier. At least if you teach a toddler to clean up after themselves, they'll likely do it. There are constant messes around the apartment, and he just never cleans them. He'll leave dishes all over the place, trash on the counters, won't take the trash out. The one other responsibility he has outside of taking our dogs out, unless I ask him to several times, and will leave his clothes all over the place, despite the several hampers we have. I'll start cleaning the messes he makes, and he'll come home then immediately ruin it all in a matter of minutes. I currently work part-time because I still have a car note, insurance, and phone bill. He doesn't pay for them. He also doesn't pay for the dog or cat food, so I have to work to pay for all these things. We take my car everywhere when we drive together, so it's also increasing how much I spend on gas. I can barely save anything because of this. and it stresses me out since in order to move back home, I'll have to drop $2,000 to $3,000 to hire a moving company to take my stuff. I feel unappreciated, I feel used. It's just so frustrating because he also didn't tell anyone in his family he got married, we eloped, until his dad said he was going to visit and he had to spill the beans. But I found out he lied about a lot of things, such as, we apparently don't sleep in the same bed and never wear our rings, so I had to help him to maintain this lie while his dad was visiting. I feel like a dirty secret and like I'm being taken advantage of, but I have no idea where to start when it comes to leaving him and filing for divorce. We didn't sign a prenup, and California is a 50-50th state. All I want is the bedroom furniture, my dog, and the cat we got, as well as my clothes and car. I'm scared to restart my life at 25, but anything will be better than this. I would rather be single for the rest of my life than continue to be married to this giant toddler. Please help. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. I'm scared to restart my life at 25. As someone with over 20 years on you, I can pretty much guarantee you'll be better off without him sooner than later. Considering you want personal property and there are no kids, I can't imagine this won't be a clean break. Think of it this way. The sooner you make moves toward getting out, the sooner you can be on your way to a happier life. And for the love of God, do not get pregnant. Comment 2. First, get an attorney. You will get more money than you do now, and you will be free. I promise you that you will feel much better after getting informed. Consultation is normally free. It's possible that he'll have to pay for the attorney because he's responsible for all the bills. You have this. Life is going to be good again. Go chase your joy after getting that attorney. Now for the update. Hey everyone, a lot has happened since my last post. 2 weeks ago, I decided to take the first step towards leaving him. I started by secretly packing some of my things and storing them at a friend's place. I didn't want to raise any suspicions, so I did it little by little. I also began looking for a lawyer to help me with the divorce process. I found one who seemed really understanding and experienced with military divorces, which gave me some hope. One evening, while he was out with his friends, I sat down and wrote a detailed list of everything I wanted to take with me when I left. I made sure to include the bedroom furniture, my dog, the cat, my clothes, and my car. I felt a bit more in control, but I knew the hardest part was yet to come. A few days later, I made a mistake that changed everything. I was on the phone with my mom, venting about the situation, and I accidentally left my phone on the kitchen counter with the call still connected. He came home earlier than expected and overheard part of the conversation. He didn't confront me right away, but I could tell something was off. He was unusually quiet and kept giving me these strange looks. The next morning, he finally brought it up. He accused me of planning to leave him and demanded to know why I hadn't talked to him about it. I tried to explain how I felt unappreciated and used, but he just got angrier. He started yelling and throwing things around the apartment. It was terrifying. I realized I needed to get out of there as soon as possible. I called my friend and asked if I could stay with her for a few days. She agreed, and I quickly packed a bag with some essentials. I took my dog and cat with me, leaving most of my belongings behind. I felt a mix of relief and fear as I drove away from the apartment. Staying at my friend's place was a temporary solution, but I knew I needed a more permanent plan. I contacted my lawyer and explained the situation. She advised me to file for a restraining order to protect myself and my pets. I followed her advice and managed to get one granted. It was a small victory, but it gave me some peace of mind. Meanwhile, he started making things difficult. He changed the locks on the apartment and refused to let me in to get the rest of my stuff. He also stopped paying the bills, which meant I had to cover the rent and utilities on top of my other expenses. My savings were quickly dwindling, and I felt overwhelmed. I tried to focus on my part-time job, but it was hard to concentrate with everything going on. My boss noticed I was struggling and offered me some extra hours, which helped a bit. Still, I knew I needed to find a full-time job if I wanted to support myself and save enough money to move back home. One day, while I was at work, I got a call from my lawyer. She told me that he had filed for divorce and was demanding half of everything, including my car and the pets. I was devastated. I couldn't believe he would go that far just to hurt me. I felt like my world was falling apart. I spent the next few days gathering evidence to support my case. I took photos of the apartment before I left, showing the mess he always left behind. I also collected text messages and emails where he admitted to not helping with the household chores. It was exhausting, but I knew I had to do it if I wanted any chance of keeping my things. During this time, I started reflecting on our relationship and how we got to this point. I remembered how we met and how quickly things moved. We were both young and in love, but we didn't really know each other. I realized that I had ignored a lot of red flags because I wanted to believe in the fairy tale. I wanted to believe that love was enough to make everything work. I also thought about my own upbringing and how it influenced my expectations of marriage. My parents had a traditional marriage, but they were a team. They supported each other and shared responsibilities. I had assumed that my marriage would be the same, but I was wrong. He had a different idea of what marriage should be, and we never really talked about it before we got married. As I continued to gather evidence and work with my lawyer, I started to see a pattern in his behavior. He was controlling and manipulative, always trying to make me feel guilty for wanting more. He would say things like, "I work hard to provide for us, and you can't even keep the apartment clean." It was his way of keeping me in line and making me doubt myself. One night I had a long conversation with my friend about everything that had happened. She reminded me that I deserved better and that I was strong enough to get through this. It was a turning point for me. I decided that no matter what, I would fight for my freedom and my happiness. The court date for the divorce was set, and I prepared myself for the battle ahead. I knew it wouldn't be easy, but I was determined to stand my ground. I wanted to show him that I wasn't the weak, helpless person he thought I was. In the end, the judge ruled in my favor. I was granted the bedroom furniture, my dog, the cat, my clothes, and my car. It was a huge relief, but it came at a cost. I had to use most of my savings to cover legal fees and other expenses. I was left with very little money and a lot of uncertainty about the future. I moved back home and started rebuilding my life. It was hard, but I knew I'd made the right decision. I found a full-time job and slowly began to save money again. I also started therapy to help me process everything that had happened and to work on my self-esteem. Looking back, I realized that I had learned a lot from this experience. I learned the importance of communication and setting boundaries in a relationship. I also learned that I deserved to be treated with respect and that I was strong enough to stand up for myself. Thank you for reading. If you like this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.